Hey folks, this is Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips. A lot of times I do these videos when I'm hungry. A lot of times I just set up the camera and do these videos. But ultimately, these videos are a way to connect with my audience in a meaningful way. So I'd like to share with you a little bit as a copywriter or a marketer how you can use this dynamic media using modern tools such as the good old cell phone. And by the way, this is an iPhone 7. Okay? That's a classic right there. But basically to connect with your audience. Now, one of the challenges we have today is that when we see video or we see something on YouTube or social media on one of these platforms, it has to be a little bit sensational because we're being overwhelmed by just stimuli. So it's the old AIDA formula: attention, interest, desire, and action, except our audience has an 8-second attention span. So if I don't engage you, if I don't connect with you, if I don't get you involved, then you're turned off. It's no longer the case where the majority of the audience will just listen to a talking head. They sit there and talk to them without moving their face, and it ultimately provides them information that is useful. They kind of want something that's a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more authentic, a little bit more connecting. So I've trained myself over time to be okay in front of the camera. Now, I'm not saying that you have to create content and be a content creator, but what I am saying is you have to be comfortable with video conference calls, picking up the phone and just talking to somebody on the phone. You have to be comfortable with recording messages. So if you have a special message for your audience, you just pop up a camera and record it. And then also being aware of some of the characteristics with how your audience perceives you. So I did just record a video that talks specifically about those audience perceptions, the value of credibility, and ultimately how to connect. I want to share in this video how, as a marketer or a copywriter, the video in the long form formats give you the greatest amount of power. So let's go into that. Number one, your video format. Let's say you do an hour presentation and you set up based on a webinar. You have, you introduce the problem, you introduce the pain, you introduce typical solutions and what fails about those solutions, and then finally you teach a lesson that shows specifically how to solve a problem. That, as an hour webinar, creates content that could be used as sales letters, lead generation pieces, can be extracted as articles. One of the things that I do with clients is I will go do research in their audience. I build buyer persona. I'll build a customer avatar. Those two things can be very similar. And then I will build out series of interviews and long form content to go then set up a couple cameras and interview the client. I'll go through the client's backstory, their how they got started, the ethic of their business, where their business wants to go in the future, where their customers want to go in the future, and I'll spend 4 to 5 hours there interacting with the individual. We'll produce hundreds of gigabytes of video, audio, and other types of written materials. So I end up with like 40 to 50 pages of just the materials I take to do the interview. And then when we record, I leave with the last session I did with a client, 150 gigabytes of video. Now, we had audio tracks as well, and I leave the client with a master of all this, so they have copies of everything that they can use immediately. They can chop that up into video shorts. They can chop that up into podcast episodes. They can have it transcribed, whatever they want. Now, I typically manage all of that for the client, so I'll help them turn the raw video and audio into shot lists. I'll help them extract from the shot list and the conversation useful content. I'll help them build out an editorial calendar, and I'll help them ultimately come up with a content marketing plan that uses these materials. Now, the benefit to the client is that we can spend 4 or 5 hours together, and they get all of their content put together for the year, and then I deliver to them a kit which they can have their in-house editors expand on. They can turn into special reports. They can turn it into stick letters. They can turn it into podcasts, a year's worth of content, but they only need to spend the 4 or 5 hours up front. So the reason I'm describing this product to you is because it's a very valid and valuable service to your busy subject matter expert client or professional client. So this is something you do with a lawyer, a CPA, other folks that have a very high billing rate. Now, the reason we are doing this with our high value clients is because now I can take all those materials and I can go away, build the shot list, build up a number of different types of articles, build out a calendar for a podcast. I can make recommendations about supplemental materials that they can expand on. Sometimes when you're doing the video, somebody might say, oh, and you should really understand this other concept. Well, if you don't have content for the other concept, then you don't have a backlink. But essentially, this type of work takes you from a freelance copywriter or just one of those once and done marketers to a agency that is developing that individual as a celebrity, that individual as an expert. They're developing something of value that your customer can use for the rest of their career. Now, here's what's very important. Now you can start offering publicity services. So let's say you produce a 20-minute presentation and you've got it edited, you've got a transcript. Now you can set that up as an opt-in and have the video and then a transcript below it, or the video and then like a PDF that the person downloads, and then you can do a campaign on that. You can do pay-per-click ads that drive to a landing page that has an opt-in, and then after they complete the opt-in, it goes to this piece of content. Now, that same 20 minutes could be a podcast. It could have been a podcast that's now embedded in a landing page that has a download option. But again, it can be used to generate leads. By generating leads, now you have people on a list. You need something for them to offer them as a product or something to keep them on the list. And again, that is your drip content, which can also come out of the 4-hour session. So what we're able to do, and with AI, it's making it even easier, is that we're able to pick the brain of our client one time in a 4 to 5 hour session where they invest time, resources, and focus. But I focus them on origin story, transformational stories of clients, typical customer testimonials, what mistakes people make, what kind of objections they need to cover. You can do this by interviewing salespeople as well. And now they've got this massive package, and because they've invested quite a bit of money in the package, they're more likely to work with you for additional items. Now, what's very important about this package is you do need to make it clear up front what do they get and what should they expect, because I am not creating finished content. I'm creating outlines, and those outlines will have chunks of video or audio that are associated with that outline, and then a recommendation of what to do with that. Now, if they have an in-house editorial team, very often they can just hand it to the in-house editorial team, and that team will produce a 1,200-word article. They'll produce a 2,500-word feature. They'll produce audio and video. They can take a long interview and put B-roll or stock footage over top of it to create a YouTube video. That individual might have a list of questions that didn't get answered, and then they can do more podcasts answering those questions. And I tell them, look, just set up a camera, talk to the camera as if you're talking to your audience, and it will work out just fine. We can always put B-roll over it. Some of my videos you'll see I'm slightly offset, and that's because my camera has a grid on it, and I can just stand slightly offset so later somebody can stick some like PowerPoint slides over here. But then again, I just kind of publish it as it is, because here's the last part that's most important. Very often a client will spend $5,000 or $10,000 to do one of these sessions. I'm going to spend 2 or 3 weeks of sorting through the materials. I'm going to spend about a week up front building the package, but ultimately they'll have 12 months of content ready. They'll have content that's lead oriented and sales oriented, and then ultimately all we got to do is just assemble. And then the assembly is put together, and then we start the drip campaigns, and we feed your marketing automation. That is far beyond what a basic copywriter can do. But from a skill set perspective, it's the same skills. So if you can write a sales letter, you can write a sales letter even faster and even better with a library of content, a library of past episodes, past information, customer profiles, buyer personas, customer testimonials. You can also create a checklist from those materials and help that client really streamline and organize their marketing environment. And so instead of creating a piece of content, which is 99-cent press releases, you can actually create a marketing campaign. And so I am campaign oriented with this rather than just one-off oriented. Now the clients appreciate it. They get a lot out of it. They're able to, again, at the speed of their voice, do 12 months of content at one time. And that could be prospect newsletters, articles, podcasts, shorts, lots of shorts out of there. The shorts, I don't really think shorts are that valuable, but the customer wants shorts. It can be teasers. It can be lead generation pieces. It can be headline libraries. It can be content libraries or topics that they can expand on later. But again, they don't have to go find a new copywriter. They can find, they're not finding a new copywriter to give them ideas. They got the ideas. Now they're just finding editorial teams to put them together. And then you as a copywriter can sign them off or manage their team. I do a lot of managing my clients' teams because I have an agency model, not a one-off model. And so I might get a retainer, the $2,500 a month, $10,000 a month. It depends on what I'm doing. And then whether I'm managing their team or I'm managing my own team. The key is that once you have a library of potential clients, you can have a library of quality vendors, and then you could just do what Harvey Brody talks about. It's called the toll booth position, and you can be in the middle of that and make sure that the quality's clean, make sure you've reduced risk associated with if they're making a claim, you need to have the actual testimonial somewhere, and you have to be aware that the FTC could ask you, prove the claim. So you have to have proof of that claim somewhere. So this is really what I want to cover, though, because when I talk with copywriters who are subscribers to ad briefings, they're really just looking to write copy a little bit better when they already write good copy, or they don't have enough clients for the skill level of copy that they can write naturally. And so you need to be getting more clients. How do you get more clients? You give them ways of saving time, resources, and money. An investment in you one time to build out 12 months of content beats piecemeal. Because remember, an article could be, and these are just current prices, it could be $250 to write a 300-word article. And if you've got 12 articles in a year, or even 52 articles in a year, that adds up quickly. But the question's still there, what do we write about? And so if you structure this kind of sit down with them, you're going to deliver better value. You also lock out competitors, because once they've sat down with you and built out 12 months of content, they don't need new content. They just need the content they've already started to finish and be published on their website or to be published in different types of media. So ultimately, you are serving that client much better, but you're doing it in a package. Now, can clients afford $5,000, $10,000 for you to sit down with them to go through this type of kit? No, not all clients can afford it. But again, if you're talking about this kit and they say, well, I really can't afford that, what can you do? Then you can do maybe a 90-minute audio presentation on the telephone. So you're not bringing in a bunch of equipment. And then you're going to provide for them a transcript, a list of article topics that can come out of that, and then show them how they can finish it off themselves. So the typical person speaks 250 words a minute, and you can slow it down a little bit with technology, but today it's nothing to create a transcript. The key is chopping the transcript up, making sure it's structural for a sales presentation or lead generation, and then ultimately delivering the client something that they can use, something that they can save time with. If you're just waiting for people to show up to pay you $250 to write an article, it's a lot of articles to get to the $5,000 or even the $2,000 that you would charge when you interact with somebody one-on-one. Now again, we're all about the business of copywriting. This is actually easier for you because it gives you larger assignments, and those larger assignments can overlap in some cases, especially when you have, and I mentioned them before, the Prism audience segmentation. If you specialize in one of those segments, and then it's the same media, it's the same concept, because you're focusing on the niche that the customer wants to reach rather than a niche of a certain type of customer. So now you have, and by the way, that's $1 million concept. But then you have a lot of reuse. Now, you don't blindly reuse it. There's adaptation and stuff that only you can provide because you're an expert in that particular audience. But I'm really talking about you focusing on being an audience expert, not just writing good copy. Because you don't have to have perfect copy if you have high levels of relevance with the audience. So let me just summarize before I close this up and move on to what I'm doing next. First, you want to understand that video and audio is easier to create than ever before. If you're going to interview a client, you might as well record video while you're interviewing them so that you could have one source of recording, which is the audio, and the other source of recording, which is the video. And now you don't have to worry about losing anything when you sit down with them. But if you interview a client with a well-formed outline, the content will be good enough. Okay, you can make it nicer, but it doesn't have to be nice. It just will be done. Then you can transcribe this and turn it into individual pieces of content, or expand it or edit it down to fit specific purposes like lead generation and sales presentations. This gives you the opportunity to help the client create email newsletters, to create content for their blog, to create pay-per-click ads, to create short-form videos, to create long-form videos, to create a campaign of content over the year that you are managing for consistency, you're managing for singularity in message, and you're also adapting for the specific target audience that they want to reach. This, as a package service, takes you from freelance copywriter who's piecemeal and work together to a leader who is an agency who is going to help that client save time and money, who's going to help them vet vendors and contractors, and who's going to help them assemble a campaign that creates and keeps profitable customers. Altogether, if you're the single point of doing this, you set up like a toll booth position where anytime they want to reach a vendor or they want to reach a solution, they're going to come through you first, which helps you with longevity and retention of clients. This service is worthy of a retainer. It's worthy of a front-end type of thing where you onboard a client, and it provides both you and the client a library of materials that you can build on for years to come. So again, that's what we deliver here at Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips. And I know this is a lot for a podcast, but we have tutorials, training, individual coaching. We can help you do this with your business itself to show you how it's done firsthand. Yes, it is a high-ticket service, but again, if you think about the time and effort it takes to write content, some of my clients used to take an hour to write an article of 300 words. And I can show them with this type of methodology that they can end up with outlines, they can end up with templates and tools so that they can write that same article. It still might take them an hour, but the level of value that article delivers is so far beyond what they had before. Then when my webmaster goes through and does linking strategies, content hubs, they get a more complete solution. When my webmaster comes in and handles the integration, the WordPress, all those other details, which, by the way, my team can take care of for you in a white label. So your client wouldn't know that my team's taking care of the work. They just know that the work was done. So again, we're saving them time. We're helping them get more from their investment and ultimately keeping them engaged with you as the copywriter. But that's it. That's what I had to share today. It's useful. I'm going to expand it in my tutorial program, so make sure you visit www.adbriefings.co.uk. And if you want individual coaching to work on this in your business with your clients, I'll be more than happy to work with you. Simply visit www.adbriefings.co.uk and ask your questions. And if you're interested in one-to-one coaching, if you're interested in our white label services where we will take care of these things for your teams and you get all the credit, or you're interested in other methods to build the business of copywriting, to go from being a freelance copywriter or marketer to an agency, and we can also work with you to help you have more automation so that you can earn more for your time, then again, hit me up with your questions. I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips. If this has been useful to you, let me know. I create content based on your needs, and this dialogue and your ability to ask questions is a valuable service that helps me understand your needs, but also helps you not, dick around searching the internet all day. You can get an idea and put it to work and make some money and serve some clients and solve some problems. Thanks for watching.